Last week, with the division up for grabs, the all-time Dallas Cowboys ran wild against the Giants on Sunday night and jumped into the 3 seed in the very compacted NFC. Likewise, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the brink of a division title and a playoff berth as they sit 2 games up of the Saints with 3 games to go. The Cowboys and the Buccaneers begin Week 15 of the all-time rosters franchise. One of the greatest defensive players in the history of the game headlined the first half of this one. First interception of the season from Hall of Fame backer Derrick Brooks. Unfortunately for him, Brady and the Buccaneer offense couldn't do much. Staubach finds Michael Irvin, the playmaker, in the middle of the second quarter of this one, and Brady, held to under 200 yards, throws an awkward pass to Martin, and that would all but end any chances for the Bucs. Dallas wins this one 13-6. And our other primetime game features 2 teams eliminated from the playoffs. The Falcons, with their quarterback change, Michael Vick, the backup, launches a beauty to Roddy White, 31-13 your final. And now we head to the AFC. After Week 14, the Steelers are complete control. Then seeds 2 through 4 are based on division record, conference record, and head-to-heads. A very complicated spot. The 3-seed Titans-Oilers battle the Colts, who are the second wildcard club. Winner claims first all alone in the AFC South. Earl Campbell runs in for his 7th touchdown of the season, and the Titans-Oilers lead on the road 10-7. Tennessee-Houston demolished the Colts in the second half of the first meeting. Same story for the Colts in the rematch from Indy. Marvin Harrison with a big catch, touchdown to Raymond Berry, and then Warren Moon throws the game away. Bobby Boyd, who picked off 17 passes in his day, has a pick 6 on this day, and the Colts humiliate their division rival in Indy 28-10. The Colts need just 1 win over their final 2 weeks to clinch the division. They battle Houston this Sunday. With 2 weeks left in the regular season, the Colts have the number 1 passer in football and the number 2 receiver in football, and Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison. The all-time Buffalo Bills are on the brink of elimination. They need to win each of their final 3 games and receive some help in the AFC to clinch a playoff spot. First things first, they play host to the division rivals and get a big break. A near interception from a leaping Jeremiah Bell that Stevie Johnson brings in for a touchdown, and it just seemed the ball would never bounce their way. A missed tackle here, and Stephon Diggs, who had nearly 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, reels in this one late in the half. A masterful performance all around from Buffalo, and a Bills blowout of Miami, 42-13, and the Bills stay alive at 6-8, led by one of the best runners in the game, Hall of Famer O.J. Simpson. Nobody has as good of a rushing average as the Juice, 5.7 yards a carry. A rematch of Super Bowl I in Arrowhead between Green Bay and Kansas City. The league leader in touchdown passes, Patrick Mahomes with 25, tosses another late in the first half. A showdown of 2 of the best franchises of all time. 73 All-Pros, 36 Hall of Famers, including 2 of them connecting here, Brett Favre and Don Hudson, and 8 Super Bowl titles. This was a heavyweight battle, to say the least. Green Bay tied the game at the half, but late in the third quarter, legendary receiver Donald Driver gets rocked here. Bobby Bell recovers, and it totally swings the momentum of the game. Green Bay couldn't do much of anything on offense. Mahomes tosses another touchdown to Otis Taylor. And with the Chiefs up by 13, that defense delivers late in the game on an Ahman Green drop. Patrick Mahomes now with 27 touchdown passes after 2 more today. Kansas City crushes Green Bay 29-13. So now with just a few weeks left in the season, the loser of Washington and New York will be eliminated from the playoffs. We begin late in the fourth quarter. Eli deep to Victor Cruz, part of a spectacular 79-yard drive capped by Amani Toomer, and the Giants lead late. But slinging Sammy Ball, who was shut down most of the game, finds his man off the tip drill, Bobby Mitchell, and the Redskins Commanders run out the clock and win it in a heartbreaker for the Giants, 12-10. Washington battles Minnesota next week with their playoff sliver of hope still alive. Eric Allen solidified his Hall of Fame case by intercepting Boomer Esiason and returning it for a touchdown against the Jets in one of the great pick sixes in the history of the game. He has a pick six here, one of 2 interceptions on the day for the legendary cornerback. Philadelphia would jump out to a huge lead here. Retzlaff with the score. And there's the second from Eric Allen, one of the best cover corners in the history of the game. The all-time Eagles keep their playoff hopes alive as well with this win, 17-15. Philadelphia and Washington are both 2 games back with 2 to go. Dallas has not clinched the playoffs yet. They host Philly next week. 2 teams out of the playoff picture meet in Week 15, Carolina and Houston. Devastating news for the all-time Panthers. Steve Smith, one of the best receivers in the history of the game, goes down here on a punt return and is out for the remainder of the season with a broken thumb. Tune in on Monday for the complete injury report through Week 15. With Cam Newton benched due to poor play, Steve Berline would see his running back score a pair of touchdowns. Williams ran wild against Houston in a 17-6 win, and the all-time Panthers improved to 5-9 overall. The all-time Rams franchise of St. Louis and Los Angeles with 35 All-Pros, 18 Hall of Famers, and 4 NFL titles. One of the great franchises was on full display against Cincinnati today. The legendary Marshall Faulk inside of the 15, capped off by a Rams touchdown to Dickerson. Warner going deep to Bruce. How many times did they do that in the 90s and early 2000s? And then an unfortunate fumble here from Corey Dillon, recovered by Nolan Cromwell. The all-time Rams with another blowout today of Cincinnati, and they are on the brink of the playoffs with their 10th win of the season here, 31-10. The Rams boast the number 2 offense in football and are now 10-4. The Rams win officially eliminates Minnesota from the playoffs, which is a real tough break because of how good this football team is. Adrian Peterson, one of 14 Hall of Fame players for this franchise. Another 2 of them combined for the score here. Fran Tarkenton to Randy Moss. Justin Jefferson gets involved as well in a Minnesota blowout. The Vikings were playing for pride points as they battle Washington next week. And with 2 games to go, they'll be featuring the Triple Crown leader, Adrian Peterson, first in carries and yards and 10 rushing touchdowns for AP this year. The all-time Lions, another talented franchise with a disastrous postseason resume. And against the Raiders, Oakland, Las Vegas, scrapping for their playoff lives. They demolished Detroit today. Lane with the sack and Marcus Allen with another rushing touchdown, his 8th of the year. Enormous mismatch on paper between Seattle and Chicago, but credit the all-time Seahawks defense for hanging in the game in the midway. Walter Payton would break through late to give them a 14-0 lead, his 8th rushing touchdown of the season, and it appeared the game was over until Russell Wilson, one of the highest-rated passers of NFL history, finds Baldwin near the goal line. Alexander would punch it in, and then finds Largent a few times here on this fourth-quarter drive, needing a touchdown for overtime. Wilson the first down, and on the final play of the game, barring a touchdown, Largent finds the back line, and it looked like he scored. All of the fans thought he did, but the officials disagreed. And as you look at the instant replay, Largent, while he may have done a better job, he was clearly in bounds, at least 2 feet, if not 3. Tough break for Seattle, and the all-time Bears win this one 14-7. No surprise at all, the Bears boast the number 1 total defense in the NFL, and that sets up a winner-take-all in the NFC North next weekend. It's the Packers and the Bears, both atop the division, and they meet in Lambeau Field on DSFL Radio next week. The all-time Cleveland Browns came into the day with the second-best record in the league, but they did not look like the second-best team in the league on Sunday. Browns embarrassed against the all-time Cardinals in an Arizona-St. Louis shutout, 17-0 Cardinals. John Elway against Tom Brady. You know this is going to be a good one. Tom Brady against Peyton Manning. Jake Plummer has lost numerous playoff games in this building against the Denver Broncos, and it looked like more of the same as McFadden scoops a fumble on the final play of the first quarter, and the Broncos led 7-3. Welcome back to the game. Randy Moss, after a broken collarbone earlier this season, he went over 100 yards again, and they would cap off the drive with a Julian Edelman touchdown. At that point, Wes Welker is shaken up for the game with an upper arm injury. Troy Brown would take over for the injury to Wes Welker with a fabulous performance here in the fourth quarter. setting up the Patriots needing a first down to win the game, but they could not. A field goal gives the Patriots a 3-point lead. Offsides against the defense, but it didn't matter. Lionel Taylor burns them deep, and the Broncos are in position to take the win here, but instead they run the ball and settle for a field goal as John Elway would spike it with 14 seconds to go. Elam, to his credit, does drill his third field goal of the game to set up overtime in Denver, 16-all. After a Denver 3-and-out, Tom Brady, given a second chance, he would not disappoint. A catch to Brown, another one to Moss, and then Jim Nantz breaks through near the goal line to set up the Stephen Gostkowski game-winning field goal. He is tied for 8th in the league in field goal percentage and drills his 4th of the game to win it in Denver, 19-16. The Patriots were 0-3 and are now 8-6 and play host to the Dolphins for first place next week in the AFC East. Dan Fouts, one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, led the way for Air Coryell, which led the league in total offense 4 years in a row. That's just how good he was, but not on this day. Dan Fouts intercepted once. Ed Reed, the ball hawk, with a pick six. Intercepted again. Peter Boulware with a 24-yard pick six. Then intercepted for a third time by Dwayne Starks, who returns near the goal line. Lamar Jackson scrambles in for, believe it or not, just his second touchdown of the year. Then on the final play of the half, longest kick in league history, 60-yard make from Justin Tucker, gives the Ravens a 24-0 lead at the half. 27-7 is your final. A heavyweight showdown on Monday night featuring two franchises who combined for 11 Super Bowl championships, the all-time Steelers and the all-time 49ers. The winner stays atop their division. Frank Gore rocked by Jack Lambert and recovered by Joe Green here in the second quarter, and Big Ben would march him all the way down the field and find Heath Miller for the touchdown. Steelers led 10-3 at the half, 13-9 after 3, and then Sean Sweeson would hit another field goal to lift them up by 7 late in the game. 3-and-out for San Fran, which was the story in the second half. They get the ball back late. Montana trying to make something happen with his feet. He does secure the ball here, but 3 plays later, incomplete there to Vernon Davis. And then on fourth down, he'd throw a prayer to Terrell Owens, who hauls it in but is out of bounds. The all-time 49ers rank a measly 16th in offense and was completely shut down in the second half by Pittsburgh. Terrell Owens doing a little too much on the sideline for San Francisco. Tough break for the Niners, who fall back to the 2 spot in the NFC West with this loss. Pittsburgh only trails the Browns for the best scoring defense in the league. As we look at the AFC playoff picture, have to contend with the Browns, who still have forced the Steelers to play on. Pittsburgh has clinched a playoff spot at 12-2, but not a division title quite yet. The Chiefs leap from the 4 spot to the 2 spot with their win over Green Bay this week. Colts are the new AFC South champions in the 3 seed, and Miami owns the 4 seed in the AFC. Now to the NFC playoff picture, and it is a tight one. Dallas, St. Louis, LA, and Green Bay all are atop the divisions at 10-4 overall, and Chicago will play Green Bay in an opportunity to claim the division championship next weekend. That on DSFL Radio. San Francisco likewise 10-4. The Bucks are 8-6. And there are only 3 teams remaining in the NFC that are in the hunt: the Eagles, Redskins, Commanders, and Saints. Let's check out another 5 teams eliminated from the postseason this weekend. The all-time Cincinnati Bengals franchise, with 2 Hall of Fame players, made a quarterback change, and it was a good one. Former MVP Ken Anderson benched by Joe Burrow, and he had a fabulous game against the Ravens and has helped keep the Bengals interesting down the stretch of the season. The all-time Cincinnati Bengals not good enough to contend for a playoff spot. They are eliminated. The all-time Seattle Seahawks had the challenge of contending with that brutal division with San Francisco and St. Louis, LA. 18 All-Pros, 5 Hall of Famers, none better than Mr. Seahawk Steve Largent. Credit to Seattle for upending the Rams at home on a primetime game, but they just weren't good enough, and the all-time Seahawks are eliminated from the all-time roster playoffs. The all-time Carolina Panthers played arguably the easiest division in the league, but still weren't quite good enough to contend for the playoffs. 17 All-Pros and 3 Hall of Famers This franchise has won only 9 playoff games in its history and is one of the 12 franchises in the NFL without a Super Bowl title. The all-time Carolina Panthers eliminated from postseason contention. Joe Namath guaranteed a Super Bowl title in 1968, but didn't guarantee this franchise would be any good at all after he retired, and they have not been. 25 All-Pro players and 7 Hall of Famers in the history of the Jets. One of them is one of the best receivers in the game, number 13, Don Maynard. But the Jets have very little surrounding him and are eliminated from the playoffs. The Lions franchise won 4 NFL titles before the Super Bowl era, but many call it the curse of Bobby Lane. They have not been good ever since. 30 All-Pro players, 15 Hall of Famers, including Calvin Johnson. But the Lions are one of the most disappointing franchises of all the National Football League's history, and they are eliminated from postseason contention. Tough break as the Lions are filled with great players. We'll have more shout-outs of eliminated teams next week, but until then, here's a look at the scoreboard from this week of the All-Time Rosters franchise and a preview of next week where we have 4 teams that are playing for the division lead and potentially the division title next week. It is arguably the biggest week of the regular season this Sunday of the All-Time Rosters franchise. Let's check out the top 5 games from this coming weekend, beginning in Foxborough. Miami can win the AFC East with a victory on Sunday. Meanwhile, the all-time Patriots hold almost no tiebreaker, but they do make the postseason if they win out. They battle Miami this week, and they play Buffalo next week. Must win for the AFC East title in Foxborough. The all-time Kansas City Chiefs win the AFC West with a win on Sunday against the all-time Raiders. Meanwhile, Oakland-Las Vegas has a chance to shake up everything with a win on the road. They play the Chiefs this week. That would give them first in the division, and then a win-and-in scenario against the Chargers next week. But the Raiders would clinch a playoff spot if they are to win on Sunday. And this is a showdown between 2 of the greatest franchises of all time, the Rams and the Steelers. Pittsburgh wins the AFC as the number 1 seed with a victory over the Rams on Sunday. Meanwhile, St. Louis, Los Angeles has a chance to stay atop their NFC West counterpart, San Francisco, with a win on the road in Pittsburgh. Even a loss, and they'll play for the NFC West title next week. The all-time Philadelphia Eagles realistically have to win the remainder of the way to clinch a playoff spot, and it begins in Dallas. Cowboys need just 1 win to clinch the postseason over the final 2 weeks. They play Philadelphia this week. The Eagles, even if they want to make it as a wild card club, they've got to beat the Cowboys or their season is over. Big one out of Big D. And finally, in a showdown of 2 of the original franchises of the National Football League and 2 of the most successful of all time, Chicago plays Green Bay. The winner takes the NFC North. Green Bay wins it outright with a victory. Meanwhile, Chicago would have to still win next week, but the Bears would clinch a playoff spot nonetheless with a victory over Green Bay. That game will be showcased in its entirety on DSFL 8 Radio. Make sure to join us for a complete call of that one this coming Thursday. Until then, let's look at all the player stat leaders across the all-time rosters franchise. Just a reminder, it's the greatest 53 players of every franchise in its history, spanning for the Bears and Packers over 100 years. So this took months and months to put together. It's been a lot of fun putting together the best players and the best teams of the National Football League. These are all the best of the best, and we're down to the final 2 weeks of the regular season. I am so grateful for the fans that have been here so far and for those who will be here the rest of the way. The highlights, the extra point wrap-ups, and the injury report and roster update shows are all coming up the remainder of the year, but make sure to join us for special presentations of the Pro Bowl roster reveal and the countdown of the greatest players in NFL history. Who's the best of all time? That and so much more on Charger U95 is coming up. The all-time rosters franchise underway, and it's been a thrilling one so far. Nearly half of all the playoff spots in the all-time roster franchise will most likely be clinched this coming week. It's a big week in this league. Make sure you don't miss it, beginning with all the full games this week and the highlights this Sunday. This is the all-time rosters franchise with Charger Dude 95.